Why hello there, my name is Painix Killer, and if you have rented this video from your local Blockbuster, then I would like to say thank you for renting this video. Resident Evil 2 was never remade for one simple reason. It didn't need to be. You see, Resident Evil 1 in comparison to today's current gaming trends comes across like a mess.
What is this?
Wow, what a mansion!
Resident Evil 1 needed to be remade because there was just so much story that was missing, and even had such huge holes that could be filled with brand new storylines. See, many view Resident Evil Remake as one of the best Resident Evil games ever made, and for many reasons they're right.
What is it?
But for me personally, I've always had a soft spot for Resident Evil 2,
Blood.
perhaps one of the great sequels ever made. Fuck. You see, in order for Resident Evil 2 to be what Resident Evil 1 wasn't, it was tasked with taking everything that we expected and making it feel even better than before. Whereas in the first game, fear and dread was set on us due to the use of real actors, real props and disgusting imagery, Resident Evil 2 has us experience that for ourselves. There may be no harder start to a game than what's found in Resident Evil 2. Now imagine if the first Resident Evil game started like this, with us suddenly set upon by the dogs that threatened those poorly paid actors in the first game. I doubt it will be remembered so fondly in the eyes of many. Though, due to Resident Evil 2 being the sequel, something like this didn't seem out of place, and was completely acceptable, and probably in most cases even expected. For this review, I am cutting absolutely no corners. Not only did I go out of my way to get hold of Biohazard 2, the PC version of Resident Evil 2 in Japan, which is actually the best PC version of this game, but I also went out of my way to get hold of North America, the PC version of Resident Evil 2, and played through that version as well. Although it's not widescreen like the GameCube version, it's pretty decent, although the resolution is incredibly small. The best version of Resident Evil 2, if you're going to play it today on a modern console or emulate it on your PC, is the GameCube version. This version has higher quality FMVs as well as higher quality textures. It can also be rendered at 1080p and can be tricked to feel widescreen. On top of all of these amazing features that the GameCube version offers, there is of course also controller support. Resident Evil 2 takes key concepts first introduced in the first game and just puts them up to 11, makes them the best that they can truly be. Now, some of the main things that for me personally make a Resident Evil game, starting with the controls, level design, going through the pacing and the weapons, and of course the atmosphere. These things combined are what make a Resident Evil game what it really is. Now, obviously, the level design in Resident Evil 2 is what really stands out in this one. The streets set the stage at the beginning and are in my opinion one of the best opening stages to any game going today. It's incredibly just refreshing to run through and never gets tiring or bored. There's so many different places where you can get killed if you don't know where you're going. Now, the zones themselves are completely linear. You pretty much run in a straight line through one place to the other, but if you decide to stop and actually fight each of the zombies that you face, you're fucked. You're done. You're completely dead. You're the next corpse for these guys to munch on. There are some obvious hardware limitations. There tends to be about 7 zombies in each zone, in the sense that 7 zombies seems to be the max number of zombies at any one time. Now, this kind of gets ramped up from beginning to end. See, in the first zone, there's 3 zombies right as you start, even one on fire behind you. As you move forward, there's another 2. As you turn the first corner in the game, there's 2 more waiting for you. So they've taken the 7 zombies concept and spread it around the map in a very incredible way. On top of that, there's other zones that are pretty much designed just to fucking kill you. When you first get off the bus, outside the police station, you literally just have a straight line to the door of the police station itself, but the zombies are placed in such a way that these guys are they're just there to kill you. To better illustrate this point, I've decided to perform 2 runs through this opening segment, both as Claire and both Scenario A, the first scenario that you're required to play through. One run with the mindset as a pro, knowing the best route to take each time and not picking up a single item, even to the point that I ran out of ammo almost immediately and switch over to the knife, and one equipped with a machine gun. This will be our noob playstyle, being reckless and not knowing the path. Hopefully, this will create a clear contrast between the way the game is meant to be played and the player's first playthrough. Starting off with our noob playthrough, we immediately run into a zombie in the opening and even backtrack to look around. At this point I also opened fire with a machine gun. Now because I took so long at the start of the map, I've actually lured all of the zombies over to the beginning. This was done by complete opposite, and I even backtracked to see if I can catch any of them in the first glimpse. Jumping back over to the pro playthrough, I immediately know the path that I have to take and start running into it. As you can see, it's almost as though there's a snake-like tendency to run around the zombies, knowing each of them are placed strategically on the map. To add a little bit of drama, I slow down and take pot shots at one of the zombies before moving back very slightly. This gives me an opening to run past both of the slow zombies. Now, the next part, which is Kendo's gun store, is almost like a safe haven. Now as a new player, you may find this rather rewarding and an even relaxing experience. As a noob, you may go and check each of the places that are open to us in the store. Doing so will doom Kendo himself, and he will immediately be eaten by zombies. Swapping back over to the pro, we see that by just leaving, Kendo is dead no matter what. It seems his destination was hell. Now, something that actually happens that I didn't even bother taking note of was that when Kendo dies, he actually drops the weapon that he's holding. Now in Claire's playthrough, that is the bow gun, which is actually totally useless, just a horrible weapon. Now, if we, on the pro playthrough as well as the new playthrough, we can either leave the store and then backtrack and pick up the gun afterwards, or we can stay and try and fight each of the zombies. An alternative would be actually to rush over, as the zombies are distracted whilst eating Kendo, and picking up the bow gun for ourselves. Moving forward, we see that both of these areas are actually pretty linear from now on, with the noob and the pro modes almost mirroring each other in certain aspects. You are forced to attempt to pick up an item, which will lead to a zombie spawning and bursting his way through the cage door. Now, you have a pretty clear option here. You can either charge at the zombie and attempt to take some damage whilst pushing him over, or use your weapon to just fire straight through the zombie to kill the zombies that are in your way. After this point, and this decision has been made, the next section of combat gives us a kind of new enemy, almost unique to this area. It's a female zombie, and she has a disgusting, vile attack where she vomits at your feet. Now, in the new playthrough, I don't waste any time in taking shots at this new enemy, whereas in the pro playthrough, I know that I need to use speed as my advantage and make my way past the enemy as quick as possible. As always with this section, there is an enemy hidden just off screen. Again, in the pro mode, I know that, and I run straight past it. Of course, in the noob mode, it takes me by surprise, and I'm forced to act up quickly and on my feet. The next section is an incredibly horrifying one, and something pretty shocking for new players and even old players. There's 4 zombies eating a policeman dead on the floor as his body shakes and stutters with the life that's left in him. As our new playthrough is completely overpowered by this point, I decide to shoot the zombie straight over. Whereas on the pro playthrough, I know that you can very easily just run straight past this encounter. That leads us to the bus section. Inside the bus, there is a female zombie stuck on the floor. Now, the best thing to do would be to charge at her and then kick her head off. But seeing as I've already used all my ammo and I don't want to take any more damage, I'm going to attempt to kill this enemy using just my knife. That attempt fails, unfortunately. The section after the bus section is something that I touched on earlier. It's the vast part of the streets, although it's probably the busiest and most important. On this section you could very easily be overwhelmed by zombies and they can kill you. There's as many zombies here as there is at the very beginning of the game, and one wrong turn will get you bitten.
After this section is through, which again I snake through on the pro playthrough, we are led to the garden. Now, as a special treat for those of you out there who are fans of Easter eggs and secrets, some of you may already know this in fact, if you play through on the harder game mode, in this game called normal for some reason, and you don't pick up a single item from the beginning of the game up until the police station, you are actually greeted with a boss fight. Now this boss fight ties in canonically with the next game, Resident Evil 3, and it is an old character in the series. His name is Brad Vickers. He was the helicopter pilot from the very first game that actually abandoned the STARS unit right at the very beginning. Old Chicken Heart Vickers, they call him in the novels. He is a coward, plain and simple. Now in the third game he gets destroyed by Nemesis on sight and gets turned into a zombie. Of course in Resident Evil 3 we don't see him again, but in Resident Evil 2 we very quickly stumble upon him as he himself stumbles around this area. Now on the noob playthrough we don't know that exists, so we just run straight through this area, picking up ammo, killing zombies as we see them. On top of that, this is the arrange playthrough, which means I start with a machine gun. Now on the pro mode, this is an incredibly difficult task because I have now completely handicapped myself for the rest of the game. Now I'm rewarded with a cowboy outfit for Claire later on in the game, as well as a faster shooting 6-round revolver. Now although this sounds great, I now don't have any of the ammo that I could pick up in the beginning of the game, which happens to be 4 or 5 drops of ammo at a piece. Let's say there's 15 ammo per handgun bullets available. That's 30, 45, 60, 75 bullets that I've completely passed up just because I want to get the secret outfit. Now at this point I don't even have any ammo to actually complete the boss fight itself, so I'm stuck using my knife to fight Brad Vickers. This takes forever and is not recommended.
Take a look at this. It's a map of this place back when it was an art museum. There should be a ventilation tunnel underground.
And that'll get us out of here?
It should, but it's so narrow you might be the only one who can fit through.
So I'll get help and come back, right? Looks like it's a race against time.
Now that we've lost communications, there's nothing else we can do. All right, everyone. We've got to hurry up and find a way into that tunnel. It's going to be our way out of here.
Moving forward from our epic run to the police station from avoiding near death, we arrive at the police station itself, and this place is absolutely beautiful. Not only is it a well crafted and dangerous and spooky looking environment, it's kind of full of its own death traps. See, even today people go out of their way to recreate the fabled halls of the police station, of the RPD, the Raccoon City Police Station. The mansion will always stand on its own as being a creepy, spooky place, and you can never really understand why somebody could actually live there. Whereas the police station actually comes across like something just quite amazing. Now it is kind of hilarious as there's only 4 or 5 desks in the entire police station, so how anybody got any work done whatsoever is a complete and utter mystery. Next to that there's like 1 or 2 holding cells, but there is actually like stories to this. There is a reason why the police station looks the way that it does, and there's reasons why there's ammo hidden all over the police station. There's a character in this game called Irons, Chief Irons. He's the guy in control of the police station and the police force itself. Now, according to the backstory, they've actually hidden the ammo all over the police station in hilarious places because they don't want terrorists getting their hands on it. On top of that, the police station looks the way it does and the keys work the way they do because Chief Irons is an absolutely crazy person and he is absolutely in love with architecture. As soon as you hit the police station, in terms of the pro playthrough, you kind of have these things in the back of your head that you need to do. See, there's certain keys that you have to get. In order to get certain keys, you have to get certain emblems. In order to get certain emblems, you have to go through certain rooms and deal with certain enemies. These include the crows that are hidden upstairs. These include the zombies that are hidden around all of the hallways. Some of them laying on the ground, ready to bite at you. Some of them are just... there's a mass of zombies. See, I spoke before about rooms that are designed to kill you in the intro. Well, the police station has that exact same thing. See, if you happen to go into the right side of the police station immediately, you're dead. You're completely fucked. There is 7 zombies all coming straight at you as soon as you go through that door. If anything, you have to basically just avoid that door at all costs until later on in the game when you have the right power to go through and kill each of those zombies, because that is an area that you frequent a couple times. On top of that, there's the left corridor, which homes the Licker. Now, the Licker, on our pro playthrough, we know that the Licker cannot see us. He can. He doesn't have any eyes, but he can hear us. You can basically just run straight past him and don't have to worry about it whatsoever. Now, on your noob playthrough, you would already get a tiny little hint at the enemy that's about to arrive. If you're unprepared, you're basically dead. This enemy is actually one where we really don't have to go back and kill him. There's really no reason for it. Now, this corridor does come into play later on in the game, but I may end up touching on that later. That's right, the first of many mini-bosses in this game is in fact the Licker.
Oh my god, he's just so sick and beautiful and gooey and yucky and...
Although a beautiful creation, the Licker is actually the result of a mistake. You see, the Licker is supposed to be a hunter, but they messed something up along the way. See, hunters are basically giant frogs designed to just kill you, whereas the Licker, its skin is on its outside and you can see its brain. So it has quite a few weak spots if you were to actually find yourself fighting against one, and therefore is deemed a failure. Now, the Licker is way more popular than the Hunters when it comes to the rest of the lore in the Resident Evil games. There are so many more titles where you encounter the Lickers, whereas with the Hunters, you pretty much never really see them. The Licker has been truly embraced by fans of the Resident Evil series, as well as by people at Capcom. He is featured in the very first Resident Evil movie and the second movie as well, which both take place in Raccoon City. He is in several of the Resident Evil games, including Resident Evil 5 and perhaps Resident Evil 6. No one knows because nobody's actually beat Resident Evil 6. He even makes somewhat of a cameo appearance in Resident Evil 7. There's an enemy that bursts through a wall, jumps on the ceiling and swipes at you with claws. Clearly some kind of moulded style of Licker. The Licker has appeared in several of the animated movies as well, going one-on-one with Leon and other such characters. In fact, in one of the more recent movies, the Licker is for some reason treated like a pet dog by one of the enemies, as he controls the Lickers and throws them at his enemies. In fact, in one of the latest movies, named Damnation, you actually get to see a Licker take on a tyrant variant known as Mr. X in Resident Evil 2. And again, that's another enemy we will be dealing with later on. Let's rewind a little. You see, before we meet the Licker, and before we meet corridors filled with certain death, we're actually greeted by a friendly face, that of one Marvin Branning. He's been chilling at the police station, well, dying at the police station it seems to be. You see, not only is he one of the more friendly characters that we come across in this game, he's actually one of the more useful. If we decide to play through Scenario A as Leon, this character, Marvin, would greet Leon as a friend and a co-worker, and actually mention how this was supposed to be Leon's first day, and that he's actually running a bit late. Marvin is one of the remaining policemen who haven't been turned into a zombie. Now, if we check out a different Resident Evil game, that called Resident Evil Outbreak, we actually see that our hero here, Marvin, decided to stay behind and hold down the police station. And it seems that he was only really able to clear one room, that being the main hallway. The way that he did this was by locking down the other doors electronically. Now, once we see Marvin, we are given Marvin's keycard, which allows us to unlock those doors and continue on with the game itself. So Marvin really is a hero. He did his best, and he really helped out the main characters, as well as the other survivors. Unfortunately, Marvin was gravely injured in that one zombie attack that took place before Claire and Leon were able to arrive and help save poor old Marvin. So unfortunately, later in the game, we do actually come back across Marvin and find him minutes, maybe even seconds, before he in fact undergoes the transformation into a zombie, which for 1998 is a pretty impressive thing. Marvin, for some reason, skin turns a greyish kind of purple, and he comes at us with only left one choice, and that is to take his life.
Can't let that happen. Don't talk like that. Hey!
Anyways, Marvin is a very cool character in the sense that, much like Kendo in the police station, he has unique dialogue to each of the characters. See, when he sees Claire, he remarks that there's zombie-like enemies surrounding the police station, almost as though he doesn't want to scare poor Claire. Whereas with Leon, he remarks quite clearly, yep, there's zombies, and they're out there to try and kill us.
Who are you? Oh, you must be the new guy. Leon.
Chris, Jill, Barry. Every last STARS team member has disappeared.
A smooth and suave guy, right to the end. Of course, when you find Marvin in Resident Evil 3, Jill remarks that he is simply unconscious, not dead. An interesting piece of information about Marvin is he is one of very few enemies that if you actually decide not to kill him in scenario A, here in Claire's profile, we will actually be able to find him again later on in Leon's. Seeing as Claire didn't kill him, he's still roaming around as a poor old zombie.
You must be the new guy. Leon. Sorry, but it looks like your party has been cancelled. I don't think I'm going to make it. Leon, if I die, you have to shoot me in the head.
Hey. Just hang in there. I'll be back soon.
It's at this point in the title that we find that the horror elements are indeed very close to those of the first game. Being held down by the constraints of 1998's technology, having only 64 megabytes to work with on the N64 version, a lot of the horror in this title consists of mind games. What kind of mind games? Well, the ones that make you use your mind to imagine and figure out for yourself what came next. One of the best examples of this is later on in the game, where you come across a man's diary. It's on a bunk bed and next to a dead body. It tells the story of how a watchman met an old man who works in the scrapyard out back, and even goes so far as to name this character Thomas. He's a quiet man who really seems to enjoy chess and even challenges the watchman to a game. After a few nights and a game of chess, the writer states that they were forced to cancel the game because he hadn't been feeling too well. In fact, the old man even stopped by to see the watchman, but was sent away because he literally looked like the Walking Dead. Come to think of it, the watchman himself hadn't been feeling too good lately. Upon finishing this sentence in the diary, we can now look at the body beneath our feet, and we actually find that the body has had his throat and abdomen torn out, which is oddly specific and quite disturbing. Now, this diary entry is incredibly close to the diary entry that is found in the original Resident Evil game, which tells the story of a man slowly becoming a zombie, ending with one key phrase: itchy, tasty.
Interestingly enough, it's at this point in the game we find Resident Evil 2 starts using panic in order to scare the player into a situation where they may waste all of their ammo that they have available to them. You see, the main fear that comes with playing Resident Evil 2 is about whether or not you're going to have enough ammo to kill the next enemy that you come across. Now, these certain moments of panic try to push you into a situation where you feel the need to kill the enemy that is in front of you. Now, if you do happen to go down this route, you may end up completely fucked next time you run into a different enemy. Up next in our tour of the Raccoon City police station is one of the several puzzles that happen to take place in this scenario. In fact, let's take a quick look at most of them right now. Now, like most of the other Resident Evil titles, Resident Evil 2 has several key-based puzzles that have you picking up a key that is relevant to a certain room that you need to get behind. Most of these contain anything from weapons, to plot development, to additional ammo, which could be helpful and crucial in certain situations. The other type of the main puzzle consists of you keeping an eye out for notes and letters hidden around the police station. Again, this is one that was a mainstay in Resident Evil 1 through to the current Resident Evil games. For example, the first office locker that you come across has you locked out of something that you could prove important later on, though there doesn't seem to be anything in this room that has 4-digit combination written on it. The combo is written on something a little more obvious than the other puzzles this adventure usually has. Chances are you already documented the code without even noticing, whilst running from room to room and searching for each piece of vital ammunition. Our next puzzle is nicknamed the Gods Puzzles, and may be one of the only puzzles to appear in 2 of the titles, that being Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. Something is written on the mountain. The god of sun and the god of moon, their gaze upon me is the only thing that can release my red soul. It speaks of a god of sun and moon, whose gaze is needed to release said red soul. The jewel itself is red. The 2 smaller statues must be these other gods that were mentioned, yet their gaze is the clue here. They're staring away from the red soul, not at it like they should. Nothing too tricky and pretty obvious to the naked eye, but perhaps something that people may run straight through this area without taking any time to realise. Each of these 2 statues need to be positioned in a place on the floor so that they are both looking inwards towards the statue holding the red soul. Alternatively, there are some puzzles that become easier depending on the character that you choose. Of course, Leon being classed as easy mode because of his more powerful arsenal definitely comes into play here, as you're tasked with lighting a fire. Leon starts off the game with a lighter in his inventory, whereas Claire starts off with a simple lockpick. Therefore, certain puzzles like this make Leon's playthrough the first that people choose in order to get a more feel for the game than the other.